Rosicrucian Christian Teachings by Elsa Margaret Glover. 1 Questions. As we live in the physical world, we see people born, and see others live and die. What happens when we are born and when we die? What events surround birth and death? Is there any part of us that is alive before birth and that survives after death? Is there a God? If so, what is God's nature? What is our relationship to God? Does life have a purpose? Do people really get away with evil deeds? Do people reap what they sow? Is there an irreconcilable relationship between creation and evolution? Is it possible to obtain definite answers to questions like these? The Rosicrucian Teachings provide information and teach methods for obtaining answers to these vital questions. 2 Sources of information. There are many avenues through which we obtain information. Our physical senses enable us to see, hear, feel, taste, and smell the world around us. Scientists have developed instruments which can detect things beyond our own physical senses. Radios and TVs can detect electromagnetic waves which we cannot feel. Geiger counters can detect emanations from radioactive materials which we do not directly sense. Microscopes and telescopes enable us to see things which are too small or too far away for us to see directly with the naked eye. Scientists report what they have seen. Yet sometimes they make mistakes. But anyone who takes the trouble to obtain the instruments and learn how to use them can check their observations and conclusions. When many independent scientists have checked and agreed upon these observations and conclusions, the public in general tends to believe what they say. Some people have extended their senses so that they can see more than most other people. Such people may be called seers, or prophets, or clairvoyants, or initiates, or masters, or shamans. They can report to us what they have seen. Yes, occasionally some make inaccurate reports. But when many independent seers give similar reports, we may begin to suspect that they are seeing true aspects of reality. To be certain of what is true, however, it is recommended that each person awaken his or her own ability to perceive truth. 3. The nature of man. Man is a spirit inside a body. What is the nature of spirit? Spirit has the properties of consciousness, willpower, creativity, and the ability to initiate actions. Spirit also has eternal life. During life on earth, the spirit of man functions in and through a physical body in order to gain experience. When the time comes for the body to die, the spirit leaves the body to continue its evolution in the invisible worlds until it is time for it to return to another physical body to gain more experience. 4. The nature of God. If we study the universe, we can observe that much wisdom was used in its creation. The distance of the Earth from the Sun and its revolution and rotation all combine to make an appropriate environment for the life forms on Earth. The water cycle on Earth gives life a continuous supply of fresh water. Our body is a marvel of engineering, with tremendous resilience under abuse and the ability to heal itself when damaged. God is the name we give to the wise being who planned and brought into manifestation this wonderful universe. God's creation is not finished. God is still working within the universe as it evolves to fulfill his evolutionary plan. 5. The aim of evolution. We as spirits were initially united with God. In this state we knew everything that God knew. We had all consciousness. As nice as that may sound, there was a problem. We did not have self-consciousness. Not having self-consciousness meant that we were not able to think I will. Thus, we were not able to exercise initiative or creativity. We simply existed, like all wise tiny sparks of light. In order to enable us to develop self-consciousness, God and the creative hierarchies who worked with him, helped us build bodies. With the bodies enclosing our consciousnesses we became able to see ourselves and began learning to exercise our initiative and creativity. However, the slower vibration of the bodies also cut us off from the all-consciousness. Thus, we no longer had direct access to God's wisdom. We often exercised our initiative and creativity awkwardly and destructively, and as a consequence brought pain and suffering upon ourselves. Our aim now is to regain the all-consciousness while maintaining the self-consciousness. When we have achieved that goal, we will be wise creators, who will work in harmony with the rest of the universe. 6. The cycles of evolution. We tend to have all consciousness, but not self-consciousness, when we are outside of our bodies, as when we are asleep at night, or when we are in the heaven worlds between lifetimes on earth. We tend to have self-consciousness, but not all consciousness, when we are inside our bodies, as when we are awake during the daytime during our lifetime on earth. We learn to function self-consciously and all-consciously simultaneously, by cycling back and forth between these two states. Each time we go from self-consciousness to all-consciousness, we carry a little of the self-consciousness into the all-consciousness. Each time we go from the all-consciousness into the self-consciousness, we carry a little of the all-consciousness into the self-consciousness. Thus, it is our cycling between being awake and being asleep and our cycling between life on earth and life in the heaven worlds between incarnations that enables us to evolve toward the blending of our self-consciousness with the all-consciousness. 7. The methods of evolution. Life on earth is like a school. Learning to solve the problems we confront in life stimulates us to exercise and thus develop our self-consciousness, willpower, love, wisdom, creativity, and initiative. We are learning to blend self-consciousness with all-consciousness. We have already seen how cycling between the physical world and the spiritual worlds helps with the blending process. The agents who help guide our evolution, called the recording angels, give to each and all exactly what they need for their development. Our job in life is to learn to solve all the problems given us. Even though we come up with solutions to problems, we sometimes do not act wisely. In order to help us become aware of what is right and what is wrong, God has instituted the law that says, "Whatever a man sows, that shall he also reap." Or in layman's terms, what goes around, comes around. Thus, when we have hurt others, we eventually feel the hurt ourselves. When we have helped others, we eventually feel the joy we have given them. The fact that people reap what they have sown is not always apparent in everyday life. For example, some people seem to work hard all their lives and never get rewarded. Some seem to commit crimes and escape detection and punishment. However, not all debts are paid during this lifetime. It takes the vision of a clairvoyant to be able to follow a spirit into its previous lives to see how past actions account for present circumstances. 8. Retrospection. In the school of life we will progress much more rapidly if we can become aware of the consequences of our actions on a daily basis rather than waiting for the natural law to bring them to our attention. Thus, it is recommended that each evening when we have retired to our beds, we relax our bodies and then review the events of the day in reverse order, so that we see the effects of our actions and then evaluate the causes of those effects. Thus, we can judge for ourselves, in our inner tribunal, whether the actions produced desirable effects or not. At each point where our actions had effects on other people, we must try to feel the joy or suffering which we caused in them. In so doing, we reap what we have sown and clear our record so as not to face it later. This also increases our self-awareness, helps us make improvements in our character, and teaches us more positive behavior. 9. Christianity. Christ gave 2 new commandments. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. Matthew 22:37, 39. This is in line with our aim of developing the all-consciousness. Christ added, "By this, all men will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another." John 13:35. Thus, we aim to be Christ's disciples. Christ also said, "No longer do I call you servants, for the servant does not know what his master is doing, but I have called you friends, for all that I have heard from my Father I have made known to you." John 15:15. In other words, Christ does not act as a dictator who requires blind obedience from people. Rather, he serves as friend and advisor, leaving people totally free to choose for themselves what they will or will not do. Only by making choices do people learn to exercise their self-consciousness, willpower, love, creativity, and initiative. Christ also told people, you are God's, John 10:34, and, let your light shine, Matthew 5:16. Being true Christians requires that we develop our divinely given creative powers and that we let the light of our example shine for the enlightenment and upliftment of the world. 10. Astrology. The universe is the body of God. Just as blood flows between all parts of our body, so do various types of energy circulate between all parts of God's body. These invisible currents of energy are what the astrologer studies. The important thing to realize about the astrological energy currents is that they do not force anyone to do anything. The astrologer is not making predictions about what will happen. Rather, he is describing the energies with which we have to work. What people do with these energies is their choice. It is our job in life to learn to constructively use all the astrological energies that are available to us. 11. Healing. Christ charged his disciples to preach the gospel, truth, and to heal the sick, Matthew 10:7-8. Disease comes from breaking the laws of nature. As we find truth, we learn how to live in harmony with such natural laws, and thus learn how to prevent and cure disease. As our love for others increases, it augments our desire to help those in need of healing. The Rosicrucian method of healing involves a. Helping people find the truth so that they can align their lives with the laws of nature. b. Generating healing energies through prayer. c. Doing healing work at night, when we are out of our physical bodies, in bands of invisible helpers who work on the invisible planes under the direction of the initiates of the Rosicrucian order, sometimes called elder brothers. 12. How can we find truth for ourselves? First, we need to be totally free to seek truth. To achieve this, we must detach ourselves from all preconceptions. Truth may not be what we initially think it is. We must also detach ourselves from our worldly desires, because truth is not necessarily what we, from our earthly point of view, would like it to be. We must stop following others blindly, and begin to seek truth hidden within ourselves. Second, just as it takes a quiet pond to reflect the surrounding scenery, so when we are seeking truth we need to make our minds calm and peaceful. Third, we must actively seek truth. Seeking creates an attractive force, at the spiritual level, that helps draw to us the truth that we seek. Christ said, "Seek, and ye shall find," Matthew 7:7. Because we are still in the process of perfecting our faculties, it is desirable that we be able to verify that what we think is true is, in fact, true. Truth should form a unified whole. Every part should be consistent with every other part. We need to check whether our conceptions of truth are self-consistent. If they aren't, we must find the mistake. Another test of truth is to use it and see whether it works. If our conception of truth tells us that a certain course of action will produce good results, then we can find whether that conception is true by following the course of action and observing where it takes us. 13. What does the Rosicrucian school require of students? The answer is, nothing. Max Heindel wrote in letters to students in the Rosicrucian Fellowship there must be absolute personal freedom. In his main textbook, The Rosicrucian Cosmoconception, Mr. Heindel stated that the Rosicrucian method of attainment aims, even at the very start, to emancipate the pupil from dependence upon others, to make him self-reliant in the very highest degree, so that he may be able to stand alone under all circumstances and cope with all conditions. Only one who is thus strongly poised can help the weak. 14. What will we require of ourselves if we want to make progress? According to the Rosicrucian Cosmoconception, if we would become wise we must desire wisdom with the same intensity that a man held under water desires air. We must seek it to the exclusion of every other aim in life. It must be our one and only aspiration, by day and by night. Also, we are to learn the lesson of working for a common purpose, without leadership, each prompted alike by the spirit of love from within to strive for the physical, moral, and spiritual uplift of all the world. Letters to students. For more information please contact us. The Rosicrucian Fellowship, 2222 Mission Avenue, Oceanside, California 92058-2329 USA. Webmaster at rosicrucianfellowship.org. www.rosicrucian